Welcome to Hard Mode and Hardware, and welcome to this beginner's guide to getting started in Astroneer. Now, if you've followed the channel for a while, you'll know I've done some Astroneer videos, quite a few, 7 or 8. But I thought I would do a beginner's guide for anyone who wants to play. It's not a new game, but it is a great game, and people should play it if they haven't already. So I thought I'd put this guide together to give you some handy hints for starting out, because there was a few mistakes I made and a few things I could have done with knowing straight away. So here we go. We've literally just landed on the planet. We're going to leave the vehicle with F to exit. That's very self-explanatory. First two things that are going to land for you here are the shelter and the landing pad. So the shelter is your lifeline on the planet, and the landing pad is where stuff arrives. It's that simple. So, step 1, over to the landing pad, hold F, press F to examine. We're going to flip the lid on the switch. We're going to hit the switch. Our first 3 items are going to land. These are your essential equipment. So this is how equipment comes when you make it or when it arrives. It comes in these little boxes that you've got to unpack. So the first thing we're going to do is hold F to unpack the oxygenator. I will show you where that goes in a minute, the best place to put that. Second item is a starting medium printer. And the final item, we have to move off here because we can't build it there. So we're going to move it over to here. We're going to put the box there, and then we're going to unpack it by holding F. Right. So there's two main resources that you need to keep an eye on. 2 things that you need for your base and for your survival, and that is power and oxygen. So this table can hold machines. It's a starting platform. It can hold machines with 2 pins or 1 pin, or a range of those 2 things. This medium printer, handily enough, has got 2 pins. So the first thing you'll see, if I just move the camera and show you underneath, is 2 pins on that medium printer. If you bring it over to the table, it will click into place, and that's the printer placed. But you need power. So how do you connect power in this game? Well, to begin with, you get your starting power from the shelter. If you grab this cable plug here, and you can connect it there, or you can do vice versa and connect this cable plug to there. It does the same thing. Once you've got that yellow glowing flashing line, you know you've got power to your table, and therefore power to your printer. Excellent. The second resource you need to watch out for is oxygen. As you can see, I've got my blue tether line is going to the base here, to the shelter. That means I've got a constant oxygen supply at the moment. While I'm within range of the base, that's fine, that'll stay there. If I move too far away like this, it disconnects, and I've just got what's in my backpack, which is indicated by the line on the top at the back of the backpack. You can slightly increase the range to begin with by placing the oxygenator on the shelter. You can put this on a table as well, but I find that there's a handy slot there, so you might as well use it. So plonk that in there. What that now means is there's oxygen running along the power lines to this table, which means you've got that little extra bit of range to get out before you tether off. Great. So main thing to remember is if you untether, you need to make sure you've got enough oxygen to survive getting back into oxygen range. You can extend this range, we'll get into that later on. Most things in this game that you need will be printed. In fact, I think all the things in this game will be printed in one form or another. That's all sorts of items, resources, and tools will be printed. So go over to the printer and press F to examine what we've got. So these are the recipes that we can currently build with this medium printer. We can build a large platform. You can see the ghostly form of behind me. You can build a research chamber, very useful. We'll get back to that in a minute. And a large printer, which can print larger things than the medium printer can, as if you needed telling that. So the first thing I'm going to build is a large platform because it's useful. So a large platform requires 2 resin. I will show you where the resin comes from in a minute. So how do you gather resources, and what resources are what? So first things first, you press the E key, and that brings up your terrain tool. The terrain tool will remove and eventually add and flatten the terrain, but at the moment you've only got the ability, because you haven't got a canister, the only ability you've got is to remove terrain. So you're essentially digging. So these here are resources. They are plant matter. You can use them for things. As you can see, as you left click and drag around, it will essentially hoover up this plant matter and form it into one stack. When you get enough, that stack will move to your backpack and take up a slot, just like any good survival resource type game. There you go, it's gone to there. The annoying thing about this game is they will be partial stacks everywhere for you, because once I move on to the next resource, which is resin, and this is what resin looks like, it's these yellow tubes, then it will replace this part stack with resin, as you'll see now. So that part stack But as I hoover it all up, it automatically sorts out, so it's not like you can hoover everything up at once. You don't have to take your time picking out the different resources. You'll find that a lot of resources that are on the surface will also have a lot underneath the surface as well, so keep digging and you'll find more of it. So these yellow tubes are resin. If you look at my backpack now, you'll notice that the oxygen is depleting. So once we've got a bit more resin, I'm going to... maybe a little bit more. There we go. I'm going to head back so that we don't run out of oxygen, because running out of oxygen is bad. Okay, so now that we're back at the base, how do we print things? Well, the last thing that we examined on the printer will be the active item. So at the moment, the active item is the large platform. So what we can do, because we've got the resources on our person, we can just click the slot where the resin needs to go, and it will fill it in automatically. What we can also do is click on this and click and drag up to the point where it needs to be. So now that printer is ready to print. All we need to do is go over to the button on the front. There we go, and we click the nice green button and off it goes, like a 3D printer. Well, it is a 3D printer, so it's going to build that platform as long as it takes to do it. Like a lot of these games, the more power you have, the better this machine will run. The more machines you run, the more power you need. They will run, but they'll slow down. It's a bit like Minecraft with some of the industrial stuff. So all you need to know is the more power you have available, the quicker these operations will be carried out. So while this is printing this large platform, I'm going to go and show you how to make tethers and what they do. So these grey bubbles are compound. This is the other widely available resource on the starting planet, and this was going to be the other half of everything you make is going to be compound. There are other rare resources, but compound and resin are the main two that you're going to be using, at least to begin with. Once we've got a few compound, we can head back and I will show you how we make it safer to go further away from the shelter. So back at the shelter, we can click on our backpack to open it up. At the bottom here, we've got a mini printer. This prints out very small items that we need, that we can use, and we can build on the fly when we need them. So first thing you should always build is a tether bundle. This will give you the means to extend your oxygen supply and let you go further without worrying about passing out. So all you need to do is make sure you've got the resource available, click the green button. It will craft the item and store it automatically in your bag. Okay, so once you've got your tethers, all you need to do is press the T key to place a tether. The tip for this is to go as far as you can. You'll see the oxygen tube detached. You can come back a little bit till it reattaches and hit T. That is as far as that tether will take you, and then you can do the next one. You'll get to learn how far you can run before you can place a tether, but if you do it this way to begin with, you'll sort of get a feeling and it'll let you extend it as far as you can. So the reason I said you don't want to fall into a hole is because if you haven't got a tether nearby, you're going to have no oxygen. You can place tethers on slopes, but you can't place them on vertical walls, so you don't want to be doing that. At least I don't think you can. I'm going to try that now. They do have a gravity element to them, so if you try and place them on a vertical wall... Oh, okay, I made a liar of myself. You can place them on a vertical wall. Well, that's good to know. So there you go. That's how you make sure you extend your range with your oxygen. Another tip for the tethers is if you go off in one direction, to save you having to make lots of tethers, you go off in one direction, you've finished gathering up all the resources in that direction, used up all your tethers, you can gather them back up again as you go. That will save you having to make more tethers. You can just use one lot at a time. Eventually you will have a spider network of tethers, and check out my other videos to see what that looks like. So our printing's completed. This is our large platform, so yet again, as we did before, we're just going to hold F to unpack it. We can then pick it up and place it where we want. I'm going to put it over here. Our next item I'm going to build is a large printer, because that will give us more things to print. The quicker you can get these resources available, the quicker you'll get your base off to a flying start. And the final thing for this first part of the beginner's guide that you need to watch out for is caves, because what will happen, you will inevitably find a cave not far from where you land and you will get yourself into all sorts of trouble. This is the first pitfall, boom boom, literally. that you will come across is these caves. So these caves go on for miles, and they are rich with all sorts of resources that you desperately want to have, but they are a massive hazard. If you fall down into the bottom of the cave, you could die anyway, but you won't be able to get back out if you don't die, and that will mean that you will starve yourself of oxygen. You can recover yourself, and you can recover your items, but it's a lot easier if you don't have to do that. So best thing to do is always carry plenty of tethers with you, because that will give you more space to move. I mean, this cave doesn't go on very far, but I guarantee if I start digging, it will open up into a massive cavern that will plummet me to my death. So definitely go looking for caves, but make sure you do it equipped, because otherwise you could be in a lot of trouble. So I think that about wraps it up for the very first video, the very first beginner's guide to getting started in Astroneer. We cover the very basics. This should get you started exploring the caves. It should get you started with everything you need. You need your oxygen, you need your power, you need your printers, and then you're off. In the next part, we will go into some more advanced building, and we will do a bit more cave diving, and look for some of the interesting resources that are available. But that about wraps it up now. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment below if you've just picked up Astroneer, if you've just started it recently. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, if you found it useful, and don't forget to subscribe to see more of this content. And you can also check out my Astroneer videos, which will be linked on the screen about now. All that's left to be said is don't forget to play it on hardware.